The school on Station Meridian 7 was unlike any school Earth had ever known. Floating high above the swirling storms of the blue-green planet below, the station was a marvel of human engineering. Its tall glass walls reflected the distant stars, and inside, corridors hummed with the quiet rhythm of advanced machinery. Students from across human colonies and a few alien allies who had joined humanity in its exploration of the galaxy traveled here to learn not just science and history, but how to survive in a universe that was as wondrous as it was dangerous. Captain Alara Gray stood at the front of Classroom Delta 3, a room that seemed ordinary at first glance. Desks were arranged in neat rows, holographic displays hovered above each workstation, and a soft hum filled the air. Yet the room had been designed for lessons far beyond normal subjects. Here, theory and practice combined to prepare young minds for challenges that could arise in space or on distant worlds. Today's lesson was unusual. It was about danger itself. Ilara looked at the students, their eyes wide with curiosity. Humans, aliens, and hybrids of both species filled the seats. Some were nervous, some eager, but all were young enough to have not yet faced real danger beyond simulations. Yet today, Ilara intended to teach them something far more subtle than drills or manuals. Danger, she would show them, was not always loud or obvious. It could sit quietly in the corner, watching, waiting, and testing those who failed to notice it. "Good morning, students," Ilara began, her voice calm yet firm. "Today we will talk about something everyone thinks they understand, but few truly do. Danger. Not the kind that yells and chases you, but the kind that waits. The kind that can appear when you least expect it, even in the safest place." The students murmured among themselves, exchanging curious glances. A few leaned forward, eager to listen. Others fidgeted, unsure what to expect. The walls of the room seemed to absorb the sound of their voices, leaving only the soft echo of their curiosity. Ada, the station's AI, monitored the room silently. Tiny drones hovered above the ceiling, scanning for any anomaly. But even Ada could not feel what Ilara sensed. A quiet tension lingered in the air, almost invisible, almost unreal. She had felt it the moment she stepped into the classroom. It was subtle, like the brush of a shadow across the edge of her vision, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Ilara continued, walking slowly between the rows of desks. "Danger is not always a roaring fire or a crashing meteor. Sometimes it is subtle, sometimes it watches quietly. And the most important skill you can learn is how to notice it before it notices you." She paused by Jace's desk, a young boy with bright eyes and restless hands. "Jace, tell me," she said gently, "what comes to mind when you think of danger?" Jace hesitated. "Something scary, something that can hurt you?" He replied cautiously. "Exactly," Ilara nodded. "But there is more. Danger is also about mistakes, about being unaware, about missing small details that seem unimportant. A tiny crack in a spaceship hull, a misread instruction, a signal ignored. Any of these can become danger if left unnoticed. Today you will learn to see it even when it is quiet." The lesson began with simple exercises. Ilara asked each student to examine the room carefully, looking for anything that seemed unusual. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing diagrams of hazards, both common and rare. Students pointed out obvious things, a loose floor panel here, a misaligned chair there. But Ilara's eyes were drawn to something more subtle. A faint shimmer in the corner of the room, almost invisible, like heat rising from the metal floor. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she observed, danger, she thought, often tests patience. The students continued their search, unaware that they were not only searching for small mistakes, but for a presence that was already aware of them. "Notice how your eyes move," Ilara instructed. "Notice how your mind reacts to small details. Sometimes your first instinct is right. Sometimes it is wrong. Learning the difference is the key to surviving unexpected situations." The students nodded, scribbling notes in their pads. Some whispered to each other, sharing what they saw. Ada's sensors detected nothing unusual. Yet Ilara's intuition told her differently. She felt it again. The quiet presence observing them, almost as if it were learning them as they learned it. As the morning wore on, Ilara introduced simulated threats. Holograms of alien predators and malfunctioning machinery flickered across the room, allowing students to practice recognizing danger safely. Jace hesitated at first, but gradually began responding with confidence. He learned to notice patterns, to anticipate risks, and to act calmly under pressure. Alara walked among the students, offering guidance. "Remember," she said, "danger does not always announce itself. Your job is to notice what others might miss. Even when something is quiet, even when it seems harmless, your awareness is your best tool." By midday, the lesson had taken on a different tone. A soft metallic sound echoed through the room, small, almost like a tap. Students looked around, unsure where it came from. Alara did not panic. She knew what it was. The quiet danger she had sensed from the beginning had made its presence known, subtly, testing their attention. "Do not be afraid," she said calmly. "Notice, assess, act wisely. Fear is natural, but it is control that matters." The students froze, realizing that what they had been learning was no longer just theory. The room itself had become part of the lesson. Every shadow, every movement, every sound was now a clue. They began paying closer attention, observing more carefully, measuring their own reactions as much as they measured the environment. Jace glanced toward the corner where he had seen a faint shimmer earlier. His heart raced, but he remembered Ilara's words. He took a deep breath, focusing on what he could see, not what he feared. Slowly, he moved closer, observing a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. Something alive, intelligent, but not immediately threatening. Ilara's voice cut through the tension. "Good, Jace, you see it. Not with fear, but with attention. That is the first step. Danger is always present. Learning to notice it without panic is how we stay safe, and how we grow stronger." The other students followed suit, gradually noticing subtle changes in the room, flickers of light, shifts in air currents, soft vibrations in the floor. Each discovery was small, but together they painted a picture. Danger, they realized, was not always obvious. It could sit quietly in the room, observing them as much as they observed it. By the end of the day, the lesson reached its conclusion. Ilara gathered the students in a circle and asked them to reflect. "What have you learned today?" she asked. "They can hide," Jace said. "Danger can hide in plain sight." "Yes," Ilara replied, smiling. "And it is always learning. But so are you. Every observation, every careful choice, every moment of awareness strengthens you. The quiet danger in the corner is not your enemy. It is your teacher if you allow it to be." The students nodded, some still wide-eyed, others thoughtful. The classroom was quiet now, but the shimmer in the corner remained, almost like it was approving of their progress. Ilara knew that this was only the beginning. Danger would test them again, in ways that were bigger, more challenging, and more important than anything they had faced so far. And she also knew this. Humanity had survived and thrived, not because it had never faced danger, but because it had learned to face it with courage, intelligence, and care. Today, her students had taken their first steps into that legacy. As the session ended and the students left the classroom, each carried with them a new awareness. The room returned to its calm, silent state, yet the quiet presence lingered, a subtle reminder that danger, though quiet, was never truly gone. It simply waited for the next lesson, for the next challenge, for the next opportunity to teach. Ilara stayed behind, watching the shimmer fade. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "Tomorrow we will learn even more." But today, they have learned the first rule. Observe, notice, and respect danger, even when it sits quietly in the room. The next morning, the Station Meridian 7 classroom was alive with anticipation. Sunlight from the nearby star filtered through the tall windows, casting soft reflections across the polished floors. Captain Ilara Gray entered classroom Delta 3 with her usual calm confidence, yet her eyes were sharper than ever. She could still feel it, the subtle presence she had noticed yesterday, the quiet shimmer that had lingered even after the students left. Ilara knew that some lessons could not be taught with words alone. Some lessons required experience. Danger, she reminded herself, was not always obvious, and it had a way of testing the unprepared. She scanned the room quickly. Ada, the station's AI, floated in a silent display overhead, its sensors sweeping every corner. But Ada detected nothing unusual. This made Ilara smile faintly. Humans had instincts for subtlety. Machines did not always notice what the mind could sense. The students arrived in groups, chatting and laughing, unaware of the tension in the air. Jace, the boy who had noticed the shimmer yesterday, walked in quietly, eyes scanning the corners of the room. He remembered Alara's words and found himself looking at places he would never have considered yesterday. Around him, other students arranged their desks, set up their holographic pads, and began their morning preparations. Alara cleared her throat. "Good morning, everyone," she began. "Yesterday you learned an important lesson. Danger can hide where you least expect it. Today we will take that lesson further. You will learn that some dangers do not announce themselves, but they still observe you, understand you, and test you." The students exchanged nervous glances. Some whispered, asking what kind of test this might be. Alara ignored the chatter and continued. "Sometimes danger is not about what it can do to you physically. Sometimes it is about observation, about understanding, about challenging your mind. Today we will practice noticing what others cannot see." She instructed the students to pair up. Their task was to explore the classroom, looking for hidden clues that could indicate unusual events. Alara emphasized that the goal was not to find threats to be eliminated, but to notice patterns, irregularities, and subtle differences. Even a misplaced pen or a slight vibration in the floor could be a clue. Jace partnered with a small alien student named Leary. Leary's eyes were large and round, reflecting curiosity and intelligence. "What do you think we should look for?" Jace asked quietly. "Anything that seems out of place," Leary replied. "Even tiny things. Yesterday I noticed the way the light flickered near that corner. That could be important." Alara watched as the pairs dispersed, moving carefully through the classroom. She remained near the center, observing quietly. Her eyes flicked toward the corner where she had seen the shimmer yesterday. Nothing was moving, or at least nothing that Ada could detect. Yet she could feel the presence like a faint heartbeat hidden in the air. Hours passed with the students examining every detail of the room. They lifted chairs, scanned the walls, checked the holographic displays, and measured vibrations in the floor. Each discovery seemed minor, but Alara encouraged them to note everything. Even the smallest detail could become important in an unexpected situation. Then, without warning, a soft metallic sound echoed from the corner. It was faint, almost like someone tapping on the edge of a panel, but enough to make several students freeze. Jace's heart jumped. Leary tilted her head, analyzing the sound. Ada's sensors briefly registered a minor anomaly, but the AI dismissed it as an environmental fluctuation. Alara, however, remained calm. She had expected this. "Notice it," she instructed, her voice steady. "Do not panic. Observe. Analyze. Understand before reacting." The students took a deep breath, trying to calm their racing hearts. Slowly, they began to focus on the subtle changes in the room. Shadows shifted, reflections flickered, and the shimmer in the corner returned, barely visible. Jace felt a chill of awareness, not fear, but attention. The presence was here, watching, learning, testing them. Alara continued the lesson, weaving it seamlessly into the experience. "Danger is intelligent," she said. "It learns from your reactions. It can be patient. Sometimes it does nothing for long periods, waiting for a moment when you are distracted. Your task is to remain aware at all times, even when you think all is calm." The students moved with caution, pairing their observations with reasoning. Leary noticed the shimmer moving slightly whenever someone approached the corner. Jace pointed it out. "It's not just a shadow," he whispered. "It moves on its own." Alara smiled inwardly. The students were learning. Observation was the first step. Understanding was next. She encouraged them to document every subtle change, no matter how small. Even the slightest shift could provide critical information. As the morning progressed, Alara introduced an additional challenge. She dimmed the room's lights slightly and adjusted the holographic displays to flicker occasionally. These changes were small, almost imperceptible, designed to test the students' attention under changing conditions. Several students flinched at the flickers. Some missed subtle changes in the floor panels. Others noticed anomalies immediately. Alara moved among them, praising their careful observations and offering guidance when needed. Then a new sound joined the metallic tap, a soft rustle, almost like a creature moving its weight across the floor. Jace's eyes widened. Leary crouched slightly, observing with acute attention. "It's real," Leary whispered. "Not a hologram. Not part of the lesson." Alara nodded slightly. "Yes," she said calmly. "It is real. And it is learning from us as we learn from it." The classroom transformed from a controlled environment into a subtle training ground. Each student's senses sharpened. They began noticing small vibrations, faint changes in the air currents, and differences in reflections across the walls. The unseen presence, whatever it was, remained quiet, testing them, challenging them to remain aware without giving itself away completely. Ilara saw that Jace and Leary were among the most focused. They moved slowly, eyes scanning every corner, every reflection, every shadow. The shimmer in the corner seemed to respond, moving slightly when they approached, retreating when they looked away. It was almost like a game, but one with real stakes as the students' awareness was being tested continuously. Remember, Ilara instructed the class, the goal is not to confront. The goal is to observe. The goal is to remain calm. When danger presents itself quietly, your mind is your greatest tool. Your senses, your patience, and your judgment are more powerful than any weapon. By mid-afternoon, the students were exhausted, but exhilarated. They had learned to focus, to notice the smallest details, and to control their reactions. Each soft sound, each subtle movement had taught them patience, observation, and self-control. Finally, the shimmer shifted fully into view. A small, intelligent alien creature, cautious but curious. It had entered the classroom without warning, moving silently and observing the students as much as they observed it. It was not aggressive, but it had presence, intelligence, and the quiet authority that only true danger possesses. Ilara instructed the students to remain still. Do not approach it recklessly, she said. Watch, learn, respect it. True danger is not always about force. Sometimes it is about understanding and strategy. The students obeyed. They watched as the creature moved carefully across the room, responding to their presence without attacking or hiding completely. It was a living lesson in observation, patience, and calm under pressure. Jace and Leary noted every movement, every shift, every sound. They learned that danger could be studied, understood, and respected. It was not something to fear recklessly, but something to learn from. Ilara concluded the lesson with a quiet reflection. Today, you have learned something far more valuable than theory. You have experienced danger in its subtle form. You have learned that awareness, patience, and understanding are as important as courage. The quiet presence in this room has taught you what cannot be learned from books alone. The students left the classroom slowly, their minds buzzing with new awareness. Even the creature had retreated quietly to its own safe area, leaving no trace except for the lessons it had imparted. Ilara remained behind, watching the empty room, sensing the lingering presence that would always return when the students needed it most. She took a deep breath. The lesson had worked. Humanity, she thought, did not survive by rushing into danger blindly. It survived and thrived by learning, by observing, and by respecting even the quietest threats. And today, her students had taken another step into that legacy. The morning sun painted long streaks across classroom Delta 3, but the room was far from ordinary. Yesterday's event still lingered in the minds of the students, a soft tension beneath their curiosity. Captain Ilara Gray stood at the front, her gaze calm but sharp. The quiet presence, the alien creature that had tested their awareness, had disappeared overnight, but Ilara knew it would return. Danger, she reminded herself, was patient. Good morning, she began, her voice steady, carrying authority without harshness. Today we will take yesterday's lessons further. Observation alone is not enough. Understanding and careful action are what truly matter. Some of you will face challenges you cannot anticipate. Others will witness challenges as they unfold. All of you will learn to respond wisely. The students settled into their desks, the hum of their holographic pads filling the room. Jace sat next to Leary, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. They had spent hours yesterday observing the faint shimmer, noting every subtle movement of the creature. But today, Ilara's words hinted at something more active, a test where their awareness would need to combine with decision-making, judgment, and teamwork. Ilara moved through the classroom, her steps quiet but deliberate. Pair up and move carefully through the room, she instructed. Your task is to locate the presence that may be among you. It will not harm you, but it will challenge your senses. Work together. Use observation, reasoning, and patience. The students paired off again, some with humans, some with alien allies, each partnership balancing different strengths. Jace and Leary began scanning the room, moving slowly, eyes darting from corner to corner. The faint shimmer returned, moving subtly in response to their presence. It was almost imperceptible, like a ripple across still water. "Do you see it?" Jace whispered. "Yes," Leary replied softly. "It's there, but it's not trying to hide completely. It's testing us." Ilara's voice broke through the tension, calm and instructive. "Remember, danger is not always about confrontation. Sometimes it tests your patience, your focus, and your ability to think. It will not attack. It observes, learns, and responds. Your goal is to understand it, not frighten it." As the pairs moved carefully, the presence began interacting more directly. A small object, a pen, rolled across the floor as if nudged by an invisible hand. Students jumped back slightly, surprised, but Ilara's steady gaze reminded them to remain calm. "Notice the pattern," she instructed. "Every movement, every sound, every shift in the room carries information. Danger is a teacher when you are patient and attentive. It is not here to hurt you today, but it is here to teach you awareness." Jace crouched down, observing the floor where the pen had rolled. Leary knelt beside him, noting faint vibrations and tiny shifts in the air. "It's intelligent," Leary whispered. "It knows we're watching." "Yes," Jace agreed. "And it's showing us what it wants us to see." The rest of the class experienced similar events. Small objects shifted subtly. Shadows flickered in unexpected ways, and soft sounds echoed from corners previously thought empty. Each incident challenged the students to focus, analyze, and respond calmly. Fear was not required, but attention was. Ilara guided the students carefully, walking among them, offering advice without revealing answers. "Do not rush," she said. "Do not guess. Observe, analyze, and act when the time is right. Remember, calmness is as important as observation. A panicked mind cannot learn from danger." After several minutes, the shimmer in the corner moved closer to the students, almost directly in their path. Jace and Leary froze, watching its careful, deliberate motion. The creature was intelligent and aware, matching their movements with precision. It was testing not just their eyes, but their patience, their judgment, and their ability to remain composed. "Do you notice how it moves?" Ilara asked quietly, approaching their pair. "It does not rush. It does not make mistakes. It adapts to your actions. This is how danger behaves when it is intelligent. You are learning, but it is learning too." The students began to understand that their actions were being observed as carefully as they observed the creature. A slight shift in posture, a glance too quickly toward the corner, a hand reaching out impulsively. All these small details were being noted. Jace realized he was holding his breath. He remembered Ilara's advice. Observe, remain calm, and act with purpose. Slowly, he and Leary crouched slightly, moving as silently as possible. The shimmer followed, pausing when they paused, retreating when they did, creating a delicate dance of awareness. Ilara watched the interactions, noting the students' growth. Some were hesitant, others confident, but all were learning a crucial truth. Danger was not always a threat to fight. Sometimes it was a test to sharpen perception, patience, and judgment. Suddenly, the shimmer shifted again, moving toward the center of the room. A soft metallic sound accompanied its motion. Several students flinched, but Jace and Leary held their ground. They could feel their hearts racing, but they reminded themselves that observation and understanding were more important than fear. "Ilara," Jace whispered. "It's coming closer." "What do we do?" "Do not act rashly," she replied softly. "Notice, assess, and choose carefully. Your actions will teach you as much as the presence itself." The shimmer finally settled near a small desk in the center of the room. Slowly, it revealed its true form, a small, intelligent alien creature, curious and cautious. Its eyes were bright and aware, scanning the students carefully, learning their reactions. The classroom was silent, except for the soft hum of machinery. Students held their positions, watching the creature. Some whispered observations quietly. Others wrote notes rapidly on their pads. The shimmer was no longer just a test of vision. It had become a lesson in awareness, patience, and careful interaction. Ilara spoke quietly, her voice carrying authority and calm. "Notice its behavior. Observe how it moves, how it responds. What patterns do you see? How does it react to hesitation? How does it respond to calmness?" The students focused, analyzing every subtle movement. Jace and Leary noted how the creature tilted its head slightly when approached too quickly, and how it paused when met with stillness. Each motion revealed something about its intelligence, its understanding, and its method of communication. "It's teaching us," Leary whispered. It's showing us what we need to learn. Yes, Jace agreed. And we have to learn carefully. If we rush, we might miss it. Ilara moved among the students, offering guidance. You are learning the most important lesson today, she said. True danger is not always immediate. It is quiet, intelligent, and patient. You cannot defeat it with speed or strength. You understand it with observation, respect, and careful thought. Hours passed as the students interacted indirectly with the creature. They practiced patience, tested hypotheses, and learned to anticipate its movements. Each subtle reaction refined their skills, teaching them not just about danger but about themselves. By the afternoon, the shimmer had revealed its final test. It moved in a deliberate pattern across the room, leaving small clues, slight vibrations, subtle changes in reflection, faint shifts in air currents. The students recognized the patterns and followed them carefully, noting the lesson hidden in every motion. Ilara observed quietly. The lesson had become real. The students were no longer learning theory. They were experiencing the intelligence, patience, and subtlety of true danger. They had to think, act, and observe simultaneously, using all of their senses. Finally, the creature retreated quietly to a small containment area prepared by Ilara in advance. It made no noise, left no trace, but the lessons it had imparted remained vividly in the students' minds. Ilara gathered the class together for reflection. Today you have learned something vital, she said. Danger is never just an obstacle. It is a teacher. It tests you, observes you, and challenges you to grow. Calmness, awareness, and careful thought are more powerful than strength or speed. Remember this lesson. It will serve you far beyond this classroom. Jace and Leary exchanged a quiet smile. They felt a new confidence, a new understanding of observation, patience, and judgment. They realized that danger, when respected and understood, could teach lessons that no textbook ever could. As the students left the classroom, their movements were more deliberate, their eyes more attentive. Even when the shimmer was gone, the presence of the lesson remained. They knew that real challenges awaited them beyond the walls of Station Meridian 7, but they also knew they had taken a crucial step toward mastering awareness, understanding, and courage. Ilara remained behind, watching the now empty room. The shimmer was gone, but she felt the presence lingering in memory, in the lessons learned and in the students' growth. She smiled faintly, confident that today's test had prepared them for even greater challenges ahead. In the quiet classroom, the soft hum of the station continued, a reminder that learning and danger never truly ends. The students had faced the lesson, and humanity, as always, had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. The day began quietly, almost deceptively calm. Sunlight filtered through the tall glass walls of Classroom Delta 3, illuminating the polished floor in soft golden streaks. The students arrived, buzzing with the excitement of yesterday's lessons. Captain Ilara Gray stood at the front, calm yet alert. Today, she thought, the lesson would become more direct. Good morning, everyone, Ilara said, her voice carrying the authority of years of experience. Yesterday you observed, analyzed, and learned to recognize subtle threats. Today you will face a challenge that will test your skills further. The danger will interact with you more directly. Remember, calmness, awareness, and reasoning are your most powerful tools. Jace and Leary exchanged a glance. The shimmer, the intelligent presence that had tested them before, was still on their minds. They had learned patience and observation, but now they sensed the next step would be more challenging. Ilara instructed the students to form small teams and patrol the room carefully. Your task, she said, is to anticipate movements, notice patterns, and respond wisely. This is not about speed or force. It is about awareness and strategy. Today you will learn that courage is measured by how calmly you act under pressure. As the students dispersed, the shimmer began to move again, almost imperceptibly at first. But this time it moved more boldly, interacting with the students' actions. A small object, a metallic cube used in previous lessons, rolled across the floor toward Jace. He froze. Taking a deep breath, recalling Ilara's advice, observe, assess, act, Leary, he whispered. Watch how it moves. It's testing us. Leary nodded, crouching low. It's showing us what to pay attention to. Watch the patterns, not just the object. Ilara circulated among the teams, guiding without revealing the shimmer's behavior. She observed how the students applied what they had learned. Some hesitated too long, letting small details pass unnoticed. Others acted with a balance of caution and decisiveness, responding to subtle cues without fear. The shimmer's actions became slightly more complex. It nudged objects, shifted shadows, and even created minor air currents, forcing the students to detect patterns under pressure. Each movement was a test of observation, analysis, and calm judgment. "Do you see it?" Alara asked quietly near Jace and Leary. "Notice how it moves with intent. It is intelligent, not random. Every action has a purpose. Your challenge is to understand it, not to confront it recklessly." Jace focused intently. He noticed that every time he moved too quickly, the shimmer would pause or retreat slightly. When he remained still, it approached slowly, almost inviting observation. Slowly, he realized the lesson. Reaction and timing were as important as observation itself. Other students experienced similar challenges. Small vibrations in the floor, flickers of reflected light, and the movement of lightweight objects became clues. Teams communicated quietly, sharing observations and forming strategies. They learned to anticipate the shimmer's behavior, to remain calm, and to act with purpose. Suddenly, a soft rustling sound echoed from the corner of the room. Several students jumped back, startled, but Alara remained calm. "Remember," she said, "fear is natural, but panic is not helpful. Focus on what you can see, hear, and understand. Your awareness is your strength." The shimmer moved closer to the center, its bright eyes observing every student. Jace and Leary crouched low, noting its deliberate movements. They realized the creature was testing not only their observation skills, but their teamwork. Every coordinated movement, every shared observation, allowed them to anticipate its next motion. Alara continued to guide the class. True danger is not defeated by rushing in. It is understood and respected. Today, you are learning to interact with a presence that is intelligent, aware, and adaptive. Your success comes from your ability to think, not to react blindly. The shimmer now initiated a more direct challenge. It nudged a small object toward the team closest to it, then paused and waited. The students recognized that they had to act strategically, coordinating without rushing, communicating quietly, and observing carefully. Jace extended his hand slowly, guiding the object back while Leary monitored the shimmer's response. "Yes," Leary whispered. "It's showing us how to respond. We can't rush. We need to move carefully." The room became a dance of observation and controlled action. Every movement of the shimmer, every shift in light or sound became part of a learning exercise. The students were no longer simply observing. They were interacting with a form of intelligent danger, learning patience, strategy, and careful coordination. Alara watched each team carefully. Some students still hesitated too long, overthinking small details. Others rushed impulsively, missing subtle cues. But gradually, the class began to synchronize with the shimmer's behavior, responding calmly, learning from each movement, and adjusting strategies in real time. "Excellent," Alara said softly to herself. "They are beginning to understand. Danger is not a puzzle to solve. It is a teacher to listen to." The shimmer's final test began when it moved toward the central area of the classroom, nudging multiple objects simultaneously. Teams had to prioritize, communicate, and act without hesitation, balancing observation with decisive action. Jace and Leary led their team with careful coordination, guiding objects, predicting movements, and avoiding mistakes. They noticed that the shimmer reacted not to speed but to clarity of thought. "Remember," Alara reminded the students, "intelligent danger reacts to hesitation and confusion. Calm, clear thinking allows you to interact successfully." As the exercise continued, the students' confidence grew. They moved with awareness and coordination, interpreting subtle cues and responding wisely. The shimmer, observing their progress, paused occasionally, seemingly acknowledging their understanding. Finally, after several hours, the shimmer retreated to the containment area prepared by Alara. The students breathed a collective sigh of relief, though there was no exhaustion from fear, only from intense focus and mental effort. Alara gathered the class together. "Today you faced the most direct challenge yet," she said. "The shimmer is not harmful, but it tested your awareness, patience, and strategy. You learned that danger can be quiet, intelligent, and adaptive. It responds to your choices, not to strength. The true lesson is not in conquering it, but in understanding it." Jace and Leary shared a glance, smiles forming on their faces. "We did it," Jace whispered. "We understood and we stayed calm." "Yes," Leary said. "And we worked together. That made all the difference." Other students nodded in agreement, realizing that teamwork, observation, and careful judgment had been the keys to success. They had faced real, intelligent danger without harm, and had learned lessons they would carry far beyond the walls of Station Meridian 7. Ilara concluded the day with a reflection. Danger is always present even when it is quiet. It tests those who are unaware. You have learned that awareness, patience, and reasoning are the tools that allow humanity to thrive. Today, you have faced a real challenge, and you have grown stronger because of it. The students left the classroom slowly, their minds alive with insights. Even as they moved toward the corridors of the station, they remained aware of the lessons learned. The shimmer had disappeared, but its presence lingered in memory, in understanding, and in the growth of the students. Ilara remained behind, surveying the room. She smiled faintly, confident that her students had taken another significant step toward mastering awareness, observation, and calm judgment in the face of danger. The quiet presence had taught them more than theory ever could. In the silent room, the hum of the station continued. The shimmer might return someday, testing them further. But today, humanity's students had learned a crucial truth. Real danger is not always immediate or obvious. Sometimes it is quiet, intelligent, and adaptive, but with awareness, courage, and careful thought, it can be faced successfully. The classroom was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon light. Students moved slowly, their minds still racing with thoughts from the day's lessons. Captain Ilara Gray stood at the front of classroom Delta 3, watching them carefully. Unlike the morning's nervous energy or the day's intense focus, this moment carried a sense of calm reflection. Today's challenges were over, but the lessons remained vivid. Jace and Leary lingered at their desks, reviewing the notes they had taken. Every movement of the shimmer, every subtle sound, every shift in light or vibration was documented in careful detail. But they knew the real lesson wasn't just in what they had written, it was in what they had learned with their minds, their senses, and their hearts. Ilara began to speak, her voice steady and deliberate. Yesterday and today you faced a form of danger that was not obvious, not violent, and not immediate. It tested you in ways that cannot be captured by simulations or textbooks. You learned to observe, to think, to act carefully, and to work together. That is the true essence of surviving and thriving in a universe that is both vast and unpredictable. The students nodded quietly. Some looked at each other with newfound respect, realizing how much they had grown in a short period of time. Others gazed at the corner of the room where the shimmer had appeared, imagining the small, intelligent presence that had guided them through these lessons. Ilara continued, walking slowly among the students. Danger does not always roar. Sometimes it is silent, subtle, even patient. It observes before it acts. It tests your awareness, your reasoning, and your calmness. Today you saw firsthand that reacting impulsively is less effective than observing, analyzing, and understanding. That is how humanity thrives. That is how we survive where others may fail. Jace raised his hand timidly. Captain Gray, he said. Was it really testing us, or was it just curious? Ilara smiled faintly. Both, in a way, she replied. It is intelligent. It responds to your actions, your focus, and your calmness. In the same way, real danger in life is not always hostile. Sometimes it teaches. Sometimes it shows you where your strengths are and where your weaknesses lie. Observing it carefully allows you to learn without unnecessary harm. Leary added, So it's like a teacher, but not the kind we are used to? Exactly, Ilara said. Some teachers do not speak. Some lessons are not written in books. Some lessons are lived. What you experienced over the last 2 days is a living lesson. You have interacted with danger, understood it, and responded wisely. That is knowledge no simulation can give you. The students exchanged quiet glances. Many smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and amazement. They had faced something real, something intelligent, and something challenging, and they had succeeded not through force, but through awareness and calm judgment. Ilara moved to the corner of the classroom where the shimmer had appeared. She knelt slightly, imagining the small creature that had guided the lessons. You may not see it now, she said softly, but it is always present in memory. Its lessons will remain with you, even when you face dangers in places you cannot imagine, and so will your ability to act wisely, patiently, and bravely. Jace and Leary followed her gaze. Captain Gray, Jace asked, and will it come back? Perhaps, she said. Or perhaps other challenges will appear in its place. The form changes, but the principle remains. Awareness, patience, reasoning, and cooperation will carry you through. You have learned that today. The class remained quiet, absorbing her words. The shimmer had been more than a test. It had been a teacher, a silent guide helping each student discover their own potential. They had learned the importance of teamwork, observation, and calm decision-making. These lessons would not end with the closing of the classroom door. They would extend into every mission, every exploration, and every challenge humanity might face beyond the station. Alara turned to address the entire group. "Remember this," she said. "Danger is never entirely gone. It can sit quietly in a corner in a challenge in a moment of hesitation, but with observation, patience, and reason, it can be understood. And when it is understood, it can be managed. That is what makes humans strong. That is what allows us to thrive even when we face the unknown." She paused, allowing the words to sink in. The students nodded slowly. Each of them carried a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had faced the subtle, intelligent danger, and in doing so, they had grown in ways that went beyond skill or knowledge. They had grown in awareness, in teamwork, and in understanding. As the students began to pack up their notes and holographic devices, Alara walked slowly among them, offering quiet encouragement. "You will remember these lessons," she said softly, "and when you encounter new challenges, whether on distant worlds or within your own communities, you will carry the knowledge of today with you. Courage is not just about facing danger. It is about thinking, understanding, and acting wisely." Jace and Leary lingered for a moment, reflecting on their experiences. "I never thought danger could teach like this," Jace said quietly. "It's different," Leary replied. "It's not about fighting. It's about understanding." "Yes," Jace agreed, "and working together. We couldn't have done it alone." Alara overheard their conversation and nodded approvingly. "That is exactly right," she said. "Humanity has always thrived because we work together, think carefully, and learn from challenges. The quiet danger you faced is a reminder of that. It is a teacher, and you have passed its lessons well." The classroom grew even quieter as the sun began to set. Light from the distant star reflected off the glass walls, creating gentle patterns on the floor. The shimmer was gone, but the presence of its lessons lingered. Every student felt it in their minds, in their awareness, and in their newfound confidence. Alara looked around the room one final time. "Today, you have learned the most important lesson. Danger, even when quiet, can be faced with courage and understanding. Knowledge, awareness, patience, and teamwork are more powerful than fear. Remember this, and you will carry humanity's strength wherever you go." The students filed out of the classroom slowly, their conversations subdued, filled with reflections on what they had learned. They had faced intelligent danger, remained calm, and understood the subtle lessons it had taught. They had learned that fear could be managed, that observation was power, and that patience and cooperation could overcome challenges without conflict. As the last student left, Alara remained alone in the classroom, letting the quiet settle around her. The shimmer had returned to its resting place, a subtle presence waiting for the next lesson, the next opportunity to test awareness, patience, and reasoning. She took a deep breath and smiled. Humanity, she thought, had always faced challenges in unexpected forms. Today, her students had learned not only to survive subtle danger, but to grow stronger because of it. They had learned the essence of awareness, intelligence, and courage, the very qualities that allowed humanity to thrive in the vast, unpredictable universe. Outside, the storms of the planet below raged gently against the glass walls of the station, a reminder that the world and the galaxy beyond was full of challenges, both loud and quiet. Inside, the classroom remained calm, a sanctuary of learning, reflection, and growth. Alara whispered softly, as if speaking to the shimmer itself. "You have taught well, and so have they. Today, humanity's strength has been proven again, not in battle, not in fear, but in understanding, patience, and courage. That is the greatest victory of all." The station hummed softly, the quiet presence lingering in memory, in awareness, and in the hearts of the students. And though the shimmer might return one day, they knew that they were ready. Ready to observe, ready to understand, ready to act wisely, ready to carry the lessons of humanity forward into every corner of the universe. And so, the classroom fell silent, holding within it the quiet triumph of learning, courage, and the ever-present human spirit, the spirit that could face any danger no matter how quietly it sat, and emerge wiser, stronger, and more aware than before.